Welcome to the Builder's House. From Christianity to Theistic Satanism. So, as I went into a little background in my last 4 videos, Journey Out of Christianity and why I do not believe the Bible is the infallible Word of God. If you have watched them, you may be asking, why would I, a devout Christian girl, raised from a small child in a fundamentalist type church, go from that to what is known as Theistic Satanism? So I've heard many stories over the years and knew young people myself years ago who were from strict Christian homes, and in an effort to escape the rules and regulations of their parents or church, they would rebel. So to prove to their parents, their youth pastors, their church friends, that they were their own man or their own woman, they would leave the church and begin taking part in things that appeared to be opposite of what the church taught. So a lot of the young people I even knew in high school had such stories. Kids getting into drugs, petty crime, drinking, partying, and Satanism, as they called it. So, in fact, I do remember a group of kids in my high school that I went to that used to tease me a lot. I was the Christian girl who used to carry a Bible around and pray at lunchtime. So it was a pretty rough school, and many of the young people, unfortunately, were, they had gotten into drugs and different things that really didn't bring a lot of wellness or happiness into their life. And so I was targeted because I didn't run with the in crowd, so to speak. So a person might be listening to this and say, well, is that why you've chosen to be a Satanist, to go the opposite of the path I used to, and prove to everyone, such as my family and friends, that I no longer want to submit to religion, so I'm going to be the bad girl now, and I'm going to be the tough girl? Well, tragically, I think this mindset is just another level of deception that's ensnared a lot of young people. Not just when I was growing up as a teenager, but even today. Being religious, and I'm going to stick with the religion I walked for over 35 years of my life, Protestant Christianity. Christianity is claimed to be the good guys, is associated for the most part here in Western society in a way, with such labels as honesty, loving and helping one's neighbor, doing good deeds, morality, all these kinds of things. I know because I grew up in that kind of environment. I was encouraged to put a smile on no matter what I felt inside. I was encouraged to be involved with as many church activities as possible. And don't get me wrong, I did enjoy it at the time. I thought I was in the truth. So I got involved with teaching Sunday school and missions for the homeless, etc. So to leave the church, as a lot of young people did, including my own brother, by the way, which is another story. These young people turn to the assumed opposite, and I'm going to stress that, assumed opposite of what the church and Christianity has claimed to represent or embody. But was this really the case? So that is something I've really seriously pondered upon these last several years. You see, as I mentioned in my previous videos, I did not leave the church system as a teenager. I was well into my 30s. I was a mom. I had a little boy of my own who was preschool. And I left Christianity because I did some serious research into both history and various cultures and belief structures from around the world. And over time, I began to see the true face of Christianity. And it was not a pretty picture that a lot of people from the outside see. So it's like a thin veneer of colorful paint on a house. But once a person goes on the inside, a much more sinister and deceptive agenda is being played out. In fact, it's so deceptive that I guess, you could look at it, many who are still in the church, they never leave. Because for them, as it was for myself, when I was within it, it presented a measure of security, a false sense of hope. And you know how it goes if you've been in Christianity and come out, or any other religion for that matter. You got your family in there, your social circle, and you got a whole community around you. And that's included in those perimeters. You got the husband and the wife, the kids are in the programs, and it's difficult to leave because you got your roots down in there, especially if you've been in it for a lot of years, as I was. My mom was involved with a lot. My brother, when he was in there, he was involved with different things in the youth group and so on. So, yeah, Christianity can also be compared to like a vast multi-leveled city. From the outside, it appears to be full of life and good news, happiness, joyful songs and dances. But once inside, especially if a person is raised, like I said, from a child, it can be difficult to find one's way out. Many who are within this labyrinth-like structure never come out because they do not even recognize the true nature of what they are bound within. And I was like that for many years throughout the 80s and 90s when I grew up. It was like that for me. In fact, I still know women who are my age, who I went to church with as teenagers. They're still in the church. They're carrying on with the same activities as I did, decades ago, and thinking they're safe in this so-called ark of refuge that is going to carry them into the afterlife where they're going to be forever with Jesus. So, yeah. What's my point here? My point is that through the research I did, I saw what was hidden underneath all the masks, all the facades, and it was not pretty. So despite all the pretty labels Christianity wears, sharing the good news of salvation as they claim, doing good deeds, such as helping, some needy people in missions, homeless, it's all a very thin veneer. It's like a cloak or a costume worn by an actor. I'm not saying they don't do some good deeds, but that is what makes it so deceptive. So, how can you say such a thing? A person listening to this might be thinking, especially if you're still in the church system. And I can understand that because I said some of the same things. Well, I can say it. I will say it because I'm not just an outsider looking in. I'm not just someone who spent a few years going to church on Sunday mornings, Wednesday nights, sitting on a pew listening to the feel-good sermons, singing Jesus Loves Me in the church choir. I was in it with both feet for over 35 years. I went to a Bible college. So I'm saying these things because I walked it. I believed I had the truth. And I spent a lot of time, even on my own, doing studies. It wasn't just church going, it was personal devotions I had. It was spending time praying and seeking God, as I called it. I wanted to serve the Lord for the rest of my life, be in ministry full time. I wanted to teach children, all that kind of thing. So yeah, I can say these things because I was in it fully. And I know what Christianity is about, and I will expose it for who and what they are. I also was in Messianic Judaism for about 8 years, which I talked a little bit, about in my previous videos. And the same goes for them. It's the same falsehood with a different decorated mask, so to speak. So, but again, the question begs, why Satanism? Why not go into another religion? There's a lot out there, or just become an atheist and put the entire God question to rest. Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. I'm not a young woman. I'm in my 50s. I've been through a lot. I've seen a lot through the years. And religion is just one piece of the pie, so to speak, that I've been dealing with in my life. So, yeah. Just going back to when I was a teen and a young woman growing up, I had many experiences as a child and on into my teenage years, which, although I was in Christianity, it made me to understand that there indeed is a spiritual realm that is very real. Now, of course, when I would share anything as a child or teen with those who I trusted, such as my mom, or on occasion even my church pastor, it would always be explained within the perimeters of church teachings. So, as an example, when I was a girl, I remember my mom putting me to bed and I heard her leave the room. I was still fully awake. I wasn't asleep. And I saw someone standing at my bedside. Now, the room was dark, and it was like a dark figure. No, this wasn't a dream. As I said, I was fully awake. And at the time I remember this taking place, I closed my eyes because I got a little scared. And a few seconds later, I opened my eyes again, and this being had vanished. So when I shared it with my mom the next day, she said, "Oh, it was an angel. You've seen an angel." And if it was anything that scared me, it was a demon, of course, or it was Satan. So through my childhood and teenage years, I had many experiences, and it made me very aware of another spiritual realm besides just this physical one. So that was one thing. Another thing is I had a dad, okay? My dad was not a religious man. I think I talked very briefly about it in one of my first videos. But my mother was the religious one. She was a devout Protestant woman. She was the one who brought us to church, getting us indoctrinated and all that through my childhood. But yeah, my dad was not religious at all. He came out of Europe after the war, and his views and ideologies did not meld well, at all with Western society. He didn't want anything to do with the church and or the Bible. So even though at the time, I believed my dad was, he had to be saved, he was on his way to hell if he didn't accept Jesus, as I was told. And later in life, when coming out of religion, I remember a lot of things my dad used to tell me, and the lifestyle he lived within our home. He practiced things like meditation, yoga. He was into astrology. He had a lot of spiritual experiences that did not fit into the guidelines of the Christian theology. So that was my dad. I remember my mom, she used to hide my dad's books that he had from my brother and I, because when we were young, she didn't want us to see them. But of course, I saw some of them. And the things he researched into and believed in. So my dad had a lot of influence on me, and even though I didn't want to admit it at the time, he sowed a lot into me as a young girl and a young woman. And I miss my dad. He's passed now, but he was a great dad. The last reason I'm going to share here in this video of why Satanism is because when I was a girl, I had an experience with Satan. And it has been in my memory for decades since the time it happened. It's something I may share in a video down the road. But yeah, at the time I really didn't understand what took place. But as I look back now, I know that he was there. Regardless of the path I took at the time, he was there. And I'm just amazed, as I think about it all. So having shared a little on those things, no, I do not see the religion I was in as the good guys, despite what they proclaim about themselves here in North America in a way. So, and I don't see the one whom they call Satan or Lucifer as the bad guy, the villain, as they put it. I do find it very interesting that Christianity and the book the Roman Catholic Church compiled, the Bible, calls this being Satan, which means adversary. I'm not here to do a Bible study, don't worry. But some of you may know about the online software called eSword. And it's interesting what it says about the word Satan. And I'm just going to quote here. An opponent, an adversary, to resist. From H7854. Look it up yourself. Or H7853. Satan, an opponent, with the article prefix Satan, the arch enemy of good. Adversary, withstand. A primitive root, to attack, accuse, to resist. And from the Brown Driver Briggs, an adversary, one who withstands, adversary, personal or national, superhuman adversary. So I wanted to mention this to bring a point across here. So Satan is the adversary and opponent of who? The Abrahamic religion's God? Satan resists and is the enemy of who? The Christian church? So I found it quite revealing, quite illuminating. After all the research I've done these past 12 plus years about the Abrahamic religions, their track record and history certainly has something to say about them. Their character, their nature, and using the Bible quote, "You shall know them by their fruits." you'll know a tree by the fruit it produces. So, what kinds of fruits have been the unceasing products of this religion? I took a good long look at that, both historically as well as present day, things that Christianity stood for, their behaviors, their acts, and some of it I briefly mentioned in my previous videos. So the questions that were going through my mind are, so just take away the name Satan for a moment. Just step back and think about it. What kind of entity or what kind of being would be declared an enemy of those who spread falsehood? What type of entity would be the adversary to those who proclaim deception, those who stole from other cultures, who predated them, to create their own counterfeit version and then blatantly lie about it and claim it was theirs? What do I mean by that? Well, listen to my first couple videos, what Christianity is and how they're not original. Their doctrines, their traditions, even their symbols, some of the garments they wear, it was taken from a lot of cultures and belief structures before them, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, what kind of being would be the enemy of those who thought it was acceptable? More than acceptable. They were actually zealous about it, to imprison people who did not agree with their beliefs, then do such things as confiscate their property, torture and murder those who did not wish to be a part of their group. This is history. This is not something I'm making up. What kind of entity would be the adversary of those who used, abused, and took advantage of those, not just on the outside, but their own devotees? Do a little research on what they call cloistered nuns. These young girls give their lives to what they think is God, and the horror they endure within these closed convents within the Roman Catholic Church. Do research on that. Yet all of the Abrahamic religions have interestingly made this being, Satan, to be everything they are. And they have proved it by the fruits over the last 2,000 plus years. They've made this being, Satan, to be the bad guy, the villain, and they paint themselves to be the good guys, fighting the evil, sharing the good news, out to help the widows, orphans, and homeless, so their narrative goes. They have linked Satan with everything that is associated with malevolence, evil, horror, fear, ugliness, abuse, and negativity. Yet they themselves are the true thieves who have come to steal, kill, and destroy. Again, it's in their track record. Do the research. This is not a joke. It's extremely serious, and it's absolutely disgusting to the core, and it needs to be exposed, people. This is not just in religion. Here in North America, it's in the general perspectives in secular society. It's in Hollywood, it's in music, it's within the children's stories, the games, the computer games. Look around you. Look around you. So in part 2, I'm going to get a little more into that and some other issues which made me choose the path of Satanism, which is not what it's painted to be, by the way. So I'm going to close at that for now. Join me in part 2. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I'd be happy to answer. And thank you for joining me today. Have a great week.